All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the wild world of AI. And more specifically, we're time traveling back to early 2023 when ChatGPT was like the shiny new toy everyone was freaking out about. Remember those days?
I do. It does feel like ages ago, doesn't it? It's amazing how much the AI landscape has changed in such a short time. Looking back at those early reactions is fascinating.
It really is. It's like cracking open a time capsule, you know. And for this deep dive, our time capsule is this super interesting discussion thread we found from an Arabic tech forum from back then. And get this, the title alone just screams new era vibes. Everything you need to know about the beginning of a new age ChatGPT and beyond.
Oh, I love that. The beginning of a new age, it really captures that feeling, doesn't it? Like something huge was on the horizon, but no one knew what it meant, you know?
Totally. And it all kicks off with this user, Shaker, who is just blown away by AI. We're talking AI creating mind-blowing images from just like words, writing code, even challenging Google. Like, whoa.
Yeah, it's easy to forget now how much those early applications really blew our minds. Like Shaker going on about AI making personalized phone wallpapers on demand. You just tell your phone what you want and boom, AI magic.
Right. It was insane. And then there were those AI-powered translation bots. People were flipping out about how they could just break down language barriers. I mean, imagine traveling the world talking to anyone you meet.
It's incredible to think about. Like, remember those old sci-fi movies?
Yeah.
It felt like we were living in one.
For sure. But then, in the middle of all this crazy excitement, you start to see those inevitable concerns pop up. Like this user shit, totally worried about AI taking over jobs, factories shutting down, unemployment on the rise, that whole scary scenario.
Yeah, understandably, that fear was very real then, and it definitely hasn't gone away, has it? It's a complicated issue.
Absolutely. What's interesting, though, is how Shaker saw it. They actually felt like this job displacement thing could be a good thing in the long run. They even called the current work models a form of enslavement. Can you believe that?
Wow. Enslavement. That's a strong word. It makes you wonder what they envisioned as an alternative.
Right. Like, what does a world where AI frees us from work even look like?
It's a fascinating thing to think about. Are we talking shorter work weeks, more time for, like, hobbies and creativity, or something totally different, something we haven't even imagined yet?
Who knows? But it's a question worth exploring, for sure. But okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
Always getting ahead of ourselves.
It's so interesting. But yeah, let's rewind a bit. There's so much more to unpack from this conversation.
Yeah, those AI translation tools were something else, weren't they? Everyone was talking about how they could like totally change how we connect with other cultures and stuff.
Yeah, it was like straight out of Star Trek. But you know, one thing that really struck me going through this thread was how much the conversation was about culture. You know, it wasn't just about the tech. It was about who was driving it, who had access to it, that whole global perspective.
You're right. It wasn't just about the tech itself. It was bigger than that.
Exactly. And there were a few users who were worried about, like, the Arab world falling behind in this whole AI race. They felt like Silicon Valley, the West in general, was just miles ahead.
It's understandable, right? It was a huge shift.
Totally. And you see that fear of being left behind pop up again and again throughout history whenever a new technology comes along and shakes things up. Like one user, LLM, they were saying how frustrating it was that there weren't more AI technologies being developed in Arab and Muslim countries. They even compared it to those regions missing out on past industrial revolutions.
Yeah, it's that fear of becoming irrelevant in a world that's changing crazy fast.
It is, and everyone's just trying to find their footing.
Yeah.
But you know what I thought was really interesting? How Shaker kind of pushed back against all that doom and gloom.
Oh, Shaker. Always with the insightful takes. What did they say?
They were like, hold on a second. This isn't just a tech problem. It's a cultural thing. They really believed that culture plays a huge role in how open we are to new technologies.
They had a point. It's about fostering a culture of innovation, right? Like encouraging experimentation, critical thinking, all that good stuff.
Exactly. It's about inspiring people to be creators, not just consumers of technology, to see the potential and run with it, investing in education, mentorship, making sure everyone has a seat at the table.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And you know, it's important to remember that AI development isn't limited to one place. Yes, Silicon Valley is a big player, but there's amazing AI research happening all over the world, including the Arab world, that often doesn't get the same attention.
For sure. It's a good reminder to look beyond the usual suspects and appreciate the diversity of talent out there. But even with all the potential upsides of AI, there's that flip side, right? The ethical questions, the what-ifs, those always seem to be lurking in the background.
Always. It's like two sides of the same coin, isn't it?
And our forum users were definitely wrestling with those too. They were already thinking about those big, thorny ethical questions even back then. It's like the more powerful the tech, the higher the stakes. Right.
Hey, it's a huge responsibility.
For sure. And everyone's trying to figure out how to handle it. It was really interesting to see how much those early conversations were already grappling with those ethical dilemmas, even back then in 2023.
Yeah, it's not like we just woke up yesterday and had to deal with all this stuff. It's been brewing for a while.
Totally. Like all those discussions about AI-generated art and whether it would put human artists out of work, that was a big one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Still is, to be honest. Where do you even begin to unpack that one?
Right. It's such a tricky balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the one hand, you want to encourage creativity, innovation, all that. But then there's this whole other side, like what are the consequences, for individuals, for society as a whole?
Absolutely. And it's not just about art, right? This stuff touches everyone. Like people in the forum were worried about AI being used to spread misinformation, manipulate people, even cause physical harm. I mean, that's some scary stuff.
No doubt. These aren't just hypotheticals anymore. We're living in it.
Exactly. Which is why I think it's so important to look back at these conversations, to see how far we've come, what we've learned, and how those early fears have or haven't played out.
Yeah, totally. It's like holding up a mirror, right?
Yeah.
Makes you think, what would I have said back then? What were my hopes and fears about AI?
That's a great question. And not just about the past either. It's like, what do we want the future to look like? What role do we want AI to play in our lives?
Such big questions. But the good news is we get to help answer them, right? Like the choices we make today, the conversations we have, they all shape where we go from here.
Exactly. We're not just along for the ride. We're writing the story.
I love that. We're writing the story. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. But this is just the beginning of the conversation, right? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI, and it's changing every single day. So much more to explore, so much more to discuss.
For sure. So to everyone listening, keep those questions coming, keep those conversations going. And who knows, maybe we'll revisit this topic again soon and see how much has changed. Until then, happy exploring.